All right, so let's begin. In terms of agenda, this is what I want to cover in this session today. So I basically come from a team at Microsoft called as Microsoft Cloud for Industry and ISV. So I want to provide you some context in terms of what does this team do, what is our charter, so that you have better information about how some of the teams at Microsoft really operate. And after that, I do want to talk about two things. The first one being the Copilot template for store operations, which is basically a Gen AI-based Copilot for retail frontline workers that's been shipped by my team. And secondly, I also want to talk about an application template for store operations. So this is all about how about leveraging the assets that we have in the modern work frontline worker applications like Planner, like shifts and everything, and how we can actually make it vertical and how it's all been made like a vertical focus, specifically targeted towards the retail industry. So I'm going to talk about that bit as well. So that's the agenda for the day. Given that this is a small group, if at all you have questions, please feel free to stop me, and I'm happy to take them as I go. And also, we might have some time at the end of the session to take any additional questions that you might have. Yeah. With that, let's dive in. So let's look at what is Microsoft Cloud for Industry and ISV. So we all know about the Microsoft Cloud, right? We all know about Azure. We all know about modern work. We all know about BizApps. So all of that basically constitutes the Microsoft Cloud as we know it, right? Microsoft Cloud for Industry is basically a team at Microsoft that leverages everything that the company does across its portfolio and then brings them together along with key ISVs and partners to basically solve for specific use cases for a given industry, right? So my team basically, partners with the modern work team. My team partners with the BizApps team. My team partners with the Azure team to actually leverage the horizontal services and capabilities that they have built. And then we add a layer of IP on top of it for specific industry use cases. So that's what we do. And I sit in the Microsoft Cloud for Retail. So I am the group product manager for Microsoft Cloud for Retail. How do we operate? So this is what we do, right? Like I said, we actually build accelerators leveraging horizontal capability, horizontal solutions from Microsoft and make it more industry focused, make it more industry specific. That's one of the things that we do, and we call them as accelerators that we build. Secondly, we also do a lot of partnership with leading ISVs and SIs for a given industry. So we all know that Microsoft is pretty big on ISVs and SIs, and then every industry has got very specialized, very niche ISVs who solve for specific use cases for a given domain, right? So my team actually works with those ISVs, works with those SIs to actually get their solution onto the Microsoft Cloud and also create a better together story in terms about solving for a use case. So that's the second pillar of what we do. And the third pillar is actually the first-party applications that we have from Microsoft in terms of BizApps, in terms of modern work that are very already industry-focused. We've got very limited offerings in that space, but there are some team that focuses on industry as a first-party solution. So we partner with them as well. So those are the three broad pillars of what my team does and what my team really actually builds and ships for a given industry. With that, let's talk about what is Microsoft Cloud for Retail, right? So within my team, when we talk about Microsoft Cloud for Retail, we think about our investments in four broad buckets, right? The four broad buckets are the close of the wheel that you see over there, which is about maximizing the value of your data, elevate the shopping experience, build a sustainable and resilient supply chain, empowering the store associates. Those are the broad pillars of investments that we kind of get into. And within that, we got specific scenarios and use cases that we actually build solutions for, first party as well as partnering with key ISVs and SIs. For today's conversation, we will talk about our investments in the workforce management piece that aligns to the empowering the store associate investment pillar per se. Yep. So when it comes to retail workforce management, the very first aspect of what I want to talk about today is about the Copilot template for store operations. Let's understand this a bit better, right? So we all know no, the challenges that the retail industry deals with and has been dealing with for quite some time, which is high employee turnover, right? This is an industry that has the highest turnover when it comes to its frontline workers. And this is also an industry that generates lots of data as a part of its operations, right? So you have got multiple line of business applications all the way from point-of-sale solutions to commerce systems to supply chain solutions to all of that goodness. And all of the system generates lots of data. So on one end, you have the problem of ever-churning workforce. And on the second side, you have this opportunity of generating lots of data that could actually be harnessed. And then when we look at what Gen AI could do, I mean, one of the research basically shows that the opportunity for Gen AI in the consumer packaged goods and the retail sector is about 400 billion to 660 billion, right? That's the opportunity of what Gen AI could unlock for retailers. So given the challenges, given the opportunity, and given what LLM and Gen AI could bring to bear, we actually did a study where we kind of analyzed in terms about, what are the top use cases that Gen AI could solve for, right? And the thing that came loud and clear was like, if you look at the things around task management, around, being able to send surveys and responses, like they basically stand up as the key scenarios, key use cases for retail frontline worker where Gen AI could really play a major part, right? And then when we talk about Gen AI, the applicability of Gen AI for frontline workers is very different than for information workers, right? It is different because, for frontline worker, voice is first, right? Because you wouldn't expect a frontline worker who's standing in a physical store to actually pick up a device and start typing. Like, that's not the experience that they are looking for. They're looking for an experience where they could speak to a device and basically get the work done, right? And they're talking about scenarios where, given the fragmentation of how frontline experiences are lit up in the industry, there are multiple applications, multiple devices, that's been used in the industry. So as much as a teams-based approach is great, there's also a need for a flexibility to have it in the app and have it in the device of the retailer's choice. So those are some of the I'm not going to read through the slide, but again, in terms about how Gen AI and LLM is different from a frontline worker perspective compared to what it is for information workers. And responsible AI, I think that goes without saying, whether it is information worker or frontline worker, the responsibilities for responsible AI is very high, given that, what could it do, what uncertain or what unwanted behavior could be caused through some of it not being implemented well. So 3 areas of impact for Gen AI, like I mentioned earlier. There are 3 pillars that we look at, right? First thing is, how can we manage the high employee turnover and increase employee productivity, right? So that's the first pillar that we really focus upon. Within that, what we are saying is, we need to have a capability where frontline workers could be more productive, because of this high turnover. How can they be productive? Because as an organization, you do not want to spend a lot of time and dollars into training new people who keep churning every few months, right? So you basically want to provide them tool sets, that would help them in a very easy onboarding and also get trained and also get answers to questions that they have in their line of work in a very easy and efficient way. So that's one aspect of it. This would go all the way from a new associate wanting to know what is the standard operating procedure for a given scenario, or it could also go back to asking questions around HR policies, for example, right? Like I said, voice enabled. When associates are in the stores on the physical floor, you don't want to have an experience where employees are like, looking at the devices and typing stuff, right? That experience is not that efficient. So voice is first. And then last but not the least, how to basically provide the store leadership team in terms about insights around what are the typical questions that people have, and how I can improve my operating procedures, how I can improve my training to actually kind of address that. So that's the first pillar of investments that we are making to actually address the problem of high employee turnover, right? Reducing the overall workload on frontline managers. This is all about the leadership in the store, where we basically want to provide them capability on comparative KPIs, right? And do analytics across store in a very intuitive, in a natural language way, so that they can quickly hone into the problems that exist in the organization, and not have to sift through dashboards and reports to really decipher data and understand what is it that needs the urgent attention. The third bucket over here is about empowering frontline workers to assist the customers better, right? So beyond just an associate being able to do their job better in terms about store operations, you also want to enable them with the tool sets that would help them to have better engagement with customers, serve customers better through clienteling and answering product queries and answering inventory queries and all that goodness, right? So those are the three themes of investments that we are making around Gen AI for retail frontline workers. With that, let me play a quick video in terms of what is this Copilot template all about, which would basically give you a better understanding of how this is coming to light.
A large number of seasonal jobs are added in the retail sector every year, requiring significant training for employees. Generative AI can help retailers manage employee turnover by providing insights and information in the normal flow of work. With Microsoft Cloud for Retail, employees can quickly and easily access the information they need, increasing their productivity and efficiency through the Copilot template for store operations on Azure OpenAI service. John, a store associate, is setting up a promotional display when he runs into an issue and needs help. He opens the store operations Copilot template and says, "I found some broken products while setting up a promotional display. What do I do?" The store operations Copilot template automatically interprets the intent and rephrases the question, then provides an answer. It also automatically generates a replacement request through a voice-based interaction. John says, "We need to order additional inventory to replenish the damaged stock." The store operations Copilot template creates the request and assigns it to the right person, letting him resolve the issue more quickly without asking a manager or spending time manually filling out paperwork. Lynn, a regional store operations manager, is headed to a store today to perform an audit and uses the store operations Copilot template to get a summary of KPIs and identify areas of improvement. It can also summarize the FAQs, likes and dislikes, and recommend opportunities to improve the store policies and procedures. With the store operations Copilot template, Lynn can optimize the work experience for her store associates and deliver the best possible customer experience. The Copilot template for store operations quickly answers employee questions, creates and assigns tasks through voice commands, and provides managers with insights, improving productivity and driving business success. Empower your workforce and unleash their potential with Microsoft Cloud for Retail. Learn more at aka.ms/cloud4retail.
So looking at that video, just trying to dive a bit better. So what is this Copilot template for store operations? It's actually a template, to enable frontline workers to basically get answers in the line of work to the questions that they have in the line of work, which could be around store operating procedures, it could be around HR policies, or it could be around any of the data sets that you give access to the Copilot. And it's also about enabling frontline workers to automate, some of the task creation through voice, right? That's the two broad things that it does within the frontline worker scenario, right? So it's all about, voice first, so that, employees can then ask questions through voice, through a natural language interface, and then it also incorporates aspects about responsible AI. And then for the store managers, it's all about understanding what are the most frequently asked questions, where is it that people have a problem, and get to the Copilot to ask their questions, understanding the quality of the responses that the Copilot is providing. So the frontline workers, as they're asking questions and as they get the responses from the Copilot, they can actually, evaluate and send feedback about the quality of the response, right? So this feedback also comes back to the store management team so that they can look at the quality of the response and then tweak the models to make sure that the responses really are on point to what the questions that have been asked about. So now that we understand what does this Copilot template for store operations do, let's understand how is it built upon and how is it relevant from a modern work standpoint, right? So in terms of user experience, there's a flexibility in terms about what experiences could this be lit up, right? It could be lit up on a Power App, for example. It could be lit up on your current deployment of Microsoft Teams. And it could also be lit up on a third-party application or a custom application that you currently have, right? So the choice of the user interface is pretty exhaustive in terms about where this Copilot could be lit up. In terms about the stack itself, it's actually leveraging quite a few of the Microsoft horizontal stack around Azure OpenAI, Azure AI Search, Azure Blog, and then the Power Platform and the Teams requirements are optional based upon what is the user experience where you want this Copilot to live in, right? The other key aspect is like in terms of a buying experience, this Copilot, and not just this Copilot, but basically all the different assets that you see that is being churned out by the industry cloud team is actually a added benefit to the underlying platform. So there is no additional pricing or no additional SKU for this Copilot template, right? As long as you have got your subscription to Azure OpenAI, as long as you have got subscription to Azure AI Search, you would be able to deploy the Copilot template, right? So in terms about licensing pricing, well, the Copilot template for store operations by itself has got no additional license or pricing to it. As long as you have the underlying services and underlying platform, you are good to go. So that's what it does in terms about the Copilot template for store operations. And then what we have built as a Copilot template for store operations, we also work with a lot of our partners, both SIs and ISVs, to actually take this and make it more, add more features to it, add more capabilities to it for very given scenarios. For example, we are working with an organization who's actually taken up what we have built in terms of the Copilot template, and they're extending it to the consumer goods scenario, where in the consumer goods organization, you have a sales associate who would go into a store for an audit. So how do you actually automate task creation? How do you automate task execution, for example, to a reasonable level? And then also, how do you empower that sales associate in the store to get him answers to the questions that he or she is looking for, right? So there are lots of such scenarios where the different SIs and the different ISP networks have actually taken what we have built in terms of Copilot template for store operations and extended it for additional scenarios. So that's the first IP that we have put out in terms about an IP that is going to accrue to a retail frontline worker population per se. With that, let's talk about the next one, which is about application template for store operations, and it can get a bit confusing. One is a Copilot template, one is an application template. Well, it's different because one is really a Copilot, as in a Gen AI LLM-based application, whereas other one is purely an application to do certain things better, right? We will talk about what this is. Now, when we think about empowering the retail worker, and we look at it in 4 different pillars, right? And let me just build up this slide so we can talk about it in one go. So the first pillar is about enhancing communications and collaborations across retail environment, right? Like that's the first pillar. This is all about, chat, walkie-talkie and all the great feature that we have from Microsoft Teams, right? So within the frontline worker, how do you improve the communication? How do you enable collaboration in a much better way? The second pillar is about transforming employee experience. This is all about, again, it's about all the different applications that come from the modern work team, the modern work frontline SKU, in terms about planner, appointments, and all of that goodness. And the third pillar is about increasing retail operational efficiency, which is about very industry specific, right? Like retailers have multiple operations that they execute in the physical stores and also in their warehouses, and they have got frontline workers who are a part of this operation. So how do you make those operations more efficient, for them, right? And the last one is about safeguarding your retail business, which is all about privacy and security. So those are the 4 broad pillars about the investments that Microsoft is making to basically empower and enable the frontline worker constituency. Now, how does the application template for store operations fit into that narrative or fit into that 4 broad pillars, right? So the application template fits in this bucket about increasing retail operational efficiency. And as you can see, when we talk about operational efficiency, it's about tasks, it's about shifts, it's about leveraging Power Platform to do some additional scenarios. And then application template for store operations actually, plays in this space where it actually enables an employee, to perform retail execution and retail activities in a much better way or an accelerated way, right? Now, so the question that you might have is, hey, how is this different from task? How is this different from planner, how is it different from the other modern frontline worker applications that's out there? Well, this is about the industry flavor to all those applications. So today, when you create a task in planner, right, and the task could be as simple as, I want to go and do an inventory count in aisle 2 to 4, for example. Now, that's a task that could get created, and that would get assigned to a frontline worker, right? So that's all task, right? But then we all know from an industry standpoint, to do an inventory count or an inventory audit, I would need to have additional business-specific data or line of business data in terms about products, in terms about being able to report the inventory count, in terms about understanding the different aisles and shelves, again, which I have to do an audit for, right? Which is all very industry-specific, all very, very vertical-focused attributes and data points, which, of course, the task in planner does not really cater for, right? So what this does is, like, if you deploy this application template, the task that you see or you generate in the planner, when you click on it, it will actually get into the line of business aspects of things, right? It would actually bring up things like, okay, you're going to do an inventory count in this aisle. For what products are you reporting inventory for? What is the inventory count? And if there's a damaged product, what are the reasons that you could tag those damaged inventory to? Like, those specific aspects about a business process would actually be orchestrated through this application template for store operations. So think about this as a task plus plus for retail industry, right? Great. So if you look at it, this is a high-level stack in terms about how this is all coming to bear. So at the very core, you have got M365 for Frontline Worker, and then you also have your Microsoft Teams for Frontline Worker with all the applications like tasks and shifts and all of that goodness. And then on top of that, we have got the Power Platform where we actually leverage the Power Platform to build those application templates specific for retail industry. So this application template comes with the industry data model. It comes with predefined templates for different retail processes. It could be for inventory audit. It could be for inventory count. It could be for some marketing related activities. So we ship pre-configured templates that the industry and that the retailers can actually take and then configure it for their needs and then deploy it along with all the modern frontline worker applications. So it does advanced task management. And when I say advanced task management, it's about bringing in the industry-specific flavor, the industry-specific business process orchestration to the tasks that we have from the modern work team. It supports clienteling, right? When we say clienteling, what I mean is, like, it enables a store associate to be able to help a customer better by answering the typical questions that you would see from a customer in the store, right? It could be about a customer might come in and ask about product information, right? So enabling an associate with the right level of product data to have a meaningful and engaging conversation with the customer is a capability that is part of the application template. A customer might have got queries about return policy, for example, right? A customer might have questions about inventory availability. All of that data points and all of that orchestration that is needed for a store associate to have a meaningful conversation with a customer. All those capabilities are a part of the application template under the clienteling bucket. Last but not the least, it's about the analytics for store leadership. Like I mentioned earlier, it's about providing the leadership insights into task KPIs and all of that goodness. Right? Probably I already finished covering this. It's like about conducting retail-specific tasks and then also providing things like Customer 360 and then, being able to schedule appointments, and all of that goodness as a part of the clienteling activities, right? So those are some of the capabilities that we have within the application template per se. And then on the store leadership side, we also provide a dashboard where the store leadership team and the central leadership team basically gets a centralized view of all employee activities. So there are KPIs in terms about percentage of task completion, how much time did it take to complete a task, and all of those insights that organizations would need around tasking per se. With that, I want to play a quick video that is going to give you some insights into what the application template for store operations is all about.
Retailers are facing a perfect storm of challenges. Even with physical locations reopening, businesses are feeling the squeeze of inflation, employee turnover, and supply chain shortages. 59% of large retailers in the US and Europe report decline in consensus revenue estimates for 2023. So what can be done? Microsoft Cloud for Retail connects your customers, your people, and your data, so you can capitalize on today's connected retail experience. And now we're introducing Store Operations Assist, an experience that brings together data from disparate systems, so employees can give customers the experiences they've been looking for. Holly is a store manager at department store retailer Van Arsdale. Riley is a new store associate at Van Arsdale and is excited to work with the digital tools that Holly sets him up with. Riley can look up inventory, look up customer records, and make appointments, all with his shared device provided by Van Arsdale. This holistic approach to clienteling helps Riley make sales and delight customers. Holly begins her day by checking the performance dashboard. She sees a notification for an activity and uses Teams shifts to assign Riley the activity of setting up the Christmas sale window display. Riley receives a push notification and retail-specific templates that help him execute the activity. After he's done, he checks his to-do list and sees a spot inventory check. He selects the first product and performs a cycle count. Store Operations Assist can automate follow-ups, such as replenishing stock and sending notifications. Riley can also raise requests, like alerting his coworkers that there are broken LED lights in the women's section. This request automatically generates a work order for repairs to be completed. A best-in-class mobile solution provides all the tools in one place, enabling workers to complete work faster and more efficiently. Now the whole Van Arsdale team works together to improve their productivity and the efficiency of store operations. Bottom line, it's giving them more time to support customers in the store. Microsoft Cloud for Retail empowers your employees with the tools and data they need to retain customers, make sales, and derive satisfaction from their work.
So hopefully that gives you a good sense of what does this application template do and how it can accelerate, how we can accelerate and enhance some of the capabilities that's available from the modern frontline worker application in terms about industry-specific use cases and industry-specific scenarios. So in terms of calls to actions, you can learn more about Microsoft Cloud for Retail at our Cloud for Retail website. You can also take a look at all the different solutions that's available from Microsoft Cloud for Retail in the Solution Center, where we have a gallery of capabilities that we have built on different Microsoft horizontal products specifically for the retail industry. And then last but not the least, if you have got customers, or if you are a customer who's wanting to deploy some of this capability and are seeking help, that's the email address that you can reach out to. We'll be glad to work with you and your partner of your choice to actually make sure that we help you in the deployment and adoption of the Copilot template as well as the application template for your organization. Thank you.